it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to High School to Higher Ed, a father-daughter perspective, a special Pulse Check mini-series brought to you by Enrollify. I'm Kevin Cavanaugh, an enrollment management professional for nearly 30 years.
And I'm Emma Cavanaugh, his daughter, a 10th grader in the middle of high school. This series is about seeing the college admissions process through a different perspective, mine. We'll explore how young people are perceiving college and the messages we're getting from counselors, family, and colleges themselves. By stepping into these early conversations, we hope to offer some real insights for enrollment managers and marketers. Things you can't find in the data, but in real, everyday moments. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hello, we're back for another episode of High School to Higher Ed, a father-daughter perspective on the Enrollify network. How are you, Emma?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We had an interesting experience tonight, right?
We did.
Emma went to her first college fair, which was cool. And I went to my first college fair in which I was not standing behind one of the tables. So it was, since I was in high school. So pretty interesting experience for both Emma and I. And this is really, I think, getting into the perspective of a high school student versus an enrollment person. It was really, more than anything else, sort of the nexus of the universe for me. So Emma, give us a sense of what was your expectation of what a college fair was like, and what did you actually experience?
I was expecting it to be in like a big gym or cafeteria, which I guess applies more to high school than to colleges. They wouldn't have something in like a cafeteria, but a big open space, and then have a bunch of like those plastic tables, and then each college has their like setup, and they're like arm's length apart, and they each have their own setup, and you're able to go up and talk to each one, and they're kind of like around the outside, maybe a couple in the middle, and there's a lot of room to walk. I was expecting like 15 to 20 colleges there. Okay.
So talk about reality. That was what you anticipated. So what was the reality of this college fair tonight?
So in terms of like, I guess the venue, I guess that would be what you would call it, was good because we had like good parking, and it was very easy to, like, there were lots of signs and stuff like that, which I kind of wasn't expecting, because I feel like every time I've gone to some sort of college event, it's been very hard to find where we're supposed to go. So that I wasn't expecting. And then we walked in, and there was huge gym and a lot more people and colleges than I thought there were going to be, because they were all kind of lined up. And they had their little spaces, like at the size of a desk. And they had their tiny little setups, and then a little wooden stick with a paper on top that says what college they're from. And I was expecting like each college to have this big like banner over their table, or just a lot of room. And I was elbow to elbow with someone the entire time I was there.
There are these things called these national college fairs, and that's run by NACAC, which is a big organization that works with colleges and school counselors. And at that, you get like a booth, probably more of what you were thinking about, where you have like space, it's roped off professionally. You have a big sign for the college kind of hanging above you. But this was tight, right? They jammed. Uncomfortable. And what about the number of guests that were there?
Too many. I mean, I was overwhelmed.
When we do admissions events, you wouldn't think of this, but we have to be very conscious of fire marshal.
Yeah,
and whether or not we have too many people in the room. Yeah, I think we're flirting with the fire code tonight. But it was, in terms of, I agree. We were on like the highway, and we saw signs for the college fair, and then great security bringing us in, and great hospitality when we first walked in. And thank you to Ramapo College of New Jersey, yes. Morgan Grande, who I used to work with, and her team, and everybody else there did a great job. But it was also run by the school counselors of the county that we're in. Other than the fact that it was like lots of people and lots of colleges in a pretty small space, and there was 2 gyms, so there's a lot of colleges, but tons of people, like uncomfortably so, trying to get through the aisles.
Yeah.
And then you want to talk about, so we were going to go up to a bunch of colleges, but you weren't able to do so, right?
There were a lot of lines, and it was, we cut in front of an entire line because we didn't realize there was a line, because there's so many people that it's really hard to tell if it's a line or if it's just people that can't move because there's too many people. So then we realized that we were getting dirty looks, and then we realized that we had just cut an entire line to get into a college, and we're like, oh, okay. And then we walked to the back of the line, and we're like, no, it's a bit too long.
I guess I never really appreciated it when I was the guy behind the table. Maybe I should have. Not that I necessarily had long lines all the time, but there were times that I had long lines or I had people wanting to talk to me at least. But in this case, like, there are some schools, more than a handful, that had lines of people, like 10, 15, 20 people in line to talk to a college rep, which, I mean, maybe we'll get into it, but that just boggles my mind. Just the idea that people would wait in that line that long for like 10 minutes or more just to talk to a college rep. So, but I think that was frustrating because not all of them were schools that you were interested in, but there were a couple that you would have liked to have spoken to. But
yeah, I was so overwhelmed that I didn't really want to wait on the lines.
Yeah. You did go up to one school that had a bit of a line, right? And I think that's probably what informed your disinterest in waiting in too many lines after that.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
The woman who you spoke to talked about your major, and then she mentioned that she has sons and daughters that do fencing as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but you waited in that line.
I did.
And you got up there, and so talk about what that conversation was like. I thought it was a good one, but go ahead, tell. Give more specifics.
This conversation and all of them, most of them, were good conversations. It wasn't like they were bad. I'm not saying that college reps weren't helpful, but I think I could have figured out most of this information if I just did a quick Google search or did a little research on the college. And I don't think that they provided a lot more information than I had already known about the colleges that I was doing research on. Different from colleges that I haven't done research on before. It was useful and it was nice to be able to speak to someone that actually represents the school, but I don't think I learned anything that I wouldn't have known online or just like by not going in person. What
struck me, and this is probably less so when you had good chat bots or good websites or otherwise, but as an enrollment person and now, just utilizing AI to do like ask questions and things, it just struck me that the kind of questions that you were asking, we were getting like very vanilla answers at a lot of these schools. Like, oh yeah, great program, great internship opportunities, everything was like, everything's great.
The amount of times I heard those words.
Yeah, everything was great, or, really, all these platitudes, but not a whole lot of specifics. And if we ask that same question to an AI about the same school, you'd get such detailed responses and information and otherwise that it really scratches my head what the utility of a college fair is for an enrollment person. Like, I don't know what they get out of it anymore. You had some good conversations though, but
I had some okay conversations. Yeah. And asking them about if they have my sport, and most of them didn't. It was it was a little bit awkward because they were like, no, or I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, that's okay. Have a good day.
The I don't knows concerned me. Like, you got to anticipate that, 50% of kids or 40% of kids are going to potentially ask about a sport. You should know what sport your school has. Now, you're a fencer, so that's more of a sort of a
I understand that my sport is a little bit more specific, but it was more about the awkward part. It was then like, oh, no, we don't have that. And then it kind of just like was an awkward pause. And I was like, well, this is uncomfortable, and I don't really want to do this again.
Yeah, but you did. You went up to a bunch of people.
And but I asked every single college that I went up to anyways.
Well, I mean, listen, in defense of my enrollment admissions brethren, you're there to talk to kids, and it's never easy to say, no, we don't have something that obviously the student is really interested in, but tough to change the subject. Like it's an awkward exchange. Like,
I understand that.
you walk up to a table, you ask a question. We try to be happy and salesy and energetic. And do you have that? No, we don't. What else did you do today? You know, like, how do you change?
No, but
the
they didn't
subject?
even try to change the topic. They were just like, yeah, no, unfortunately. And then they would like be like, every single school was like, but we really should.
Yeah, that's true. They did hear that.
Only one school did I think it wasn't awkward because they were like, oh, but we have a lot of students on campus that actually I've told that have done fencing previously. And then there was another college that said that there's like opportunities in the city to do fencing that you can go to.
Right. And
So,
it will help you. Yeah.
If the colleges that provided like a solution to not having a fencing team made it less awkward, but the colleges that were just like, no, we don't have that, not very comfortable.
Yeah. So regarding your conversations with folks, did any of the conversations make you more interested in a school that you were so about, or did you talk to schools that you hadn't really heard from or about or know much about? Did any of these conversations tonight impact what you're thinking about in terms of schools you might be interested in or the types of schools you might be interested in?
Not many of the schools that were actually there are the schools that are like my top schools. So it was interesting to see and do research on schools that I hadn't really thought about. I think a couple of the schools, it made me like, oh, that's interesting. But I wouldn't be like, wow, now I really want to go there. And then there was only one school that I was like, no, I'm good.
I was going to get to this.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm pretty sure I know.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a young man behind the table. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
check.
do you want me to set it up or do you want to set it up?
I mean, I don't know what you're planning on setting it up with.
Well, we're doing this raw because we're just raw reaction from the college fair. Let me.
Yeah,
me
we
set it up.
just got back from the college fair, so.
Right. So I kind of stood back a little bit behind Emma and my wife. And in front of us, there was a family, like a mom and dad and a son. And the rep behind the table, I watched this. I wasn't sure that Emma picked up on it, but she talked about it in the car ride home. As this family stepped forward, the college rep behind the table reached out and shook the young man's hand and introduced himself. And then they did their back and forth of asking and answering questions. And then that family left, and you stepped forward.
No. You missed the part.
Oh, yes. So
he shook
before
his
that,
hand
that's right.
at the end as well.
Thank
you.
That's right.
Noted.
Yes. So, right. So he shook his hand, the young man's hand, as he stepped up to the table.
And he
he shook the young man's hand before he left the table. Then you step forward.
Okay, let me tell my part of the story now. And so I was like, I got ready. I had my hand, like, I put my phone in my other hand, and I had a bag with all this stuff in it because I was like, oh, he's going to shake my hand. He didn't go to shake my hand once. He shook the boy's hand before me twice, didn't shake my hand once. The conversation was awful, very vague. Like, he didn't provide a lot of information that I was looking for. This is a school that I've heard of, and I know that people are going to, but I haven't really done research on it. So this was kind of one of my first impressions of the school. Why did I not get a handshake? And the boy got two. Interesting. And it was a strong handshake, too. I could see it. I could tell. And then we had a not great conversation, and that just is like, no, I'm not really interested anymore.
So that was the really telling part for me. This was a school that, based on our conversations and based on some of the schools that we visited, especially the Boston trip that we took, and as you are seeing schools as opposed to hearing about schools, actually seeing them, I'm starting to get a sense of the kind of school that you're gravitating toward. Mm-hmm. So this school that I'm referring to isn't on your list, but it's a school that I think you should be taking a look at And I said, go talk to that school. Like I just have a quick conversation with them. And the rep
Ruined it.
blew it. You don't even want to research that school anymore. And it's all about first impressions.
I was open to it, and then I asked him about the political science program because that's what I'm interested in. And it was like, yeah, great opportunities, great politics. Like, well, that's what a political science department would be. They would have great politics. Like, it wasn't like, yeah, we have a bunch of students that go into internships. Like, he didn't even try to make an effort to make it sound really interesting. He was just like, oh, yeah. Right. And I asked him about a fencing team, and he was basically just like, no.
Yeah, he seemed a little disinterested. Relative, and it's all relative to the other schools, right? Mm-hmm. Because some of the other people were telling you really specific things about the political science. Some of it's even anecdotal. Whenever, I've done this and trained people, you have to have some of these scripts in your head. I represented Manhattan College, which is a great engineering school. I don't know anything about engineering, but I was a history major. But when you're out on the road recruiting for the school, you have to have stories and information about all the different majors, and even anecdotal stuff or things that alumni are doing or internships that our students are doing with a level of specificity. And this guy is just like, yeah, a lot of great stuff, great alumni, great internships. Everything was great. There was no specifics to it. Yeah. It was really, that school blew it. I was trying to nudge it on the list, and now it's off the list, right? All because of the first impression interaction.
What was it like for you, just in general?
It was cool. I mean, first of all, it was first time in 30 years I'd been on that side of the table. Very cool to be doing it with you. And it probably, I guess when we did the campus tours and some of the open houses that we've done, I've been observing things, through the lens of an enrollment person, but for whatever reason, the college fair, I was noticing things more so than probably any of those other things we did. Like, I noticed the great signage on the road, pulling in. I noticed there was a sign for the college reps that was different than the sign for the guests, which I thought was great. Not every fair organizer has specific parking for the reps. Very thankful for that. I was seeing things that are more. I did this for a long time. I mean, my first job was, here are the keys to a GeoPrism. Here's your travel schedule. Go start going to college fairs next week with very little training, and just thrown out there. And first day or two on the job, I was behind one of those tables, selling my college. So, and I did it for a long time. And now to be on the other side of it, it's just it was kind of weird to be going around all these tables and being like, man, this is what I did for a long time. It was pretty wild.
I think it's because the college fairs are like a social experiment. Like everything's just so concentrated in one little area, and there's just so much to take in. So you're just noticing every little thing.
My observation is, man, this is so inefficient. Here I am. We have staff from all of these colleges there. You're having quick 10-second conversations, maybe 30-second conversations with families. There's long lines of people getting to talk to you. But I don't mean to make myself sound ancient, but
you're pretty
30
ancient.
years ago, there was
back in the good old days.
Back in the good old days, there was hardly internet back then. I mean, there was internet, but web pages were not what they are now compared to back in the 90s. So, and there was no email campaigns, there was no social media. So the college fair was really the first time the college got to talk to a student and a student got to talk to the college. So we were the first interaction in the college search process for a lot of families. And that's how you developed inquiries. That's how you got interest in your school. But now it's like, what's the point? Why are people coming to college fairs, and why are colleges going to college fairs? I don't see how those interactions are as powerful now with all the other communication channels as it used to be. It used to be the only thing. Now it's like the least effective thing in my mind. But to see it in action from a different perspective was pretty wild.
I thought it wasn't super effective because I visited, I don't know, how many stations do you think I went to? 10?
Yeah, I was going to say like 7 or 8 where I think you had some, decent conversations, and then maybe 1 or 2 others where it was like quick.
And it's very hard to distinguish between them because
How do you mean?
I was asking the same questions to every college. They were giving me we have internships, and we have great faculty, and this is how far we are away from the city, and this is how many students we have. And then we have a fencing team, or we don't have a fencing team. So it was like, it all kinds of blends together because I got very similar answers from every school. And there's only like 1 or 2 that stand out, and one's in a bad way. So it's just, I don't think, if you're kind of just in the middle and you're just giving that basic information, which most were, it's not valuable because I couldn't even name all of the schools that I saw. And I only saw or like visited 8 to 10.
Yeah. So let me ask you this real quick. You just mentioned there was good and bad. You mentioned the bad, which I assume is no handshake guy.
If you're going to give the handshake to one person, you're going to have to give it to all of them.
What did stand out that was a good experience?
The one at the end in the first room.
And what was it about
it was
that
next to the
conversation?
college that we visited. I think it was more about the college itself than anything else. Like, they had some really interesting aspects to their program that other colleges didn't have. So I think it's more the uniqueness because all of the colleges were offering the same information, and they weren't offering stuff that was like unique that it could be like, oh, wow. But this college was, and I understand that not every college has like super unique things about all of their programs, but even saying like, we have a faculty member that did this, or like we got visited by a president once, like even those kinds of things would be more memorable than just our political science program. A lot of people go into law. There's a lot of people that double in communications and they get internships. Like, I heard that a lot, and I think what made it memorable was a specific tradition. Like, they mentioned some of the traditions they have and some of the really special things about their program that other schools wouldn't have. So I think if you can even find like one piece of information that's different and that other schools don't have, or that just stands out. If you say like a big politician visited our campus, that's interesting, even though it's like a big politician has probably gone to almost every campus in the country. It's still like not every college is mentioning it, and then I'll remember it more. I just think it's like that one piece of unique information.
Yeah. Well, that's called differentiation, and that's what we try to do in the marketing side of things to make things stand out. So many of those other schools gave you general, basic, vanilla information, and you can't name the schools that you visited. Whereas that one person that didn't shake your hand, you're going to remember the name of that institution negatively, and the other rep who had specific anecdotes about different aspects of their school that could share with you those stories or those little tidbits of traditions and information that brought the campus to life a little bit more relative to everybody else that just gave you, very basic answers.
And I didn't know anything about this school. Like, I'd never heard of it before.
Right. And it was a school, I know it to be a school with a really strong political science major. And so as we were walking by, I said, go talk to them and see what they say. And kind of worked. Like, you opened your eyes to something and you leave with a better impression of that institution.
They have very unique things about their political science program than a lot of other schools. So I understand it. It just like naturally rolls off the tongue, I guess, because it's just a well-known program. Like, they have really, really unique aspects, but all I'm saying is like one little thing.
Yep,
like,
I got you.
Saying a journalist came and visited our political science class. Like, even that would have been interesting and would have stood out to me. Right. Obviously not just a journalist. Like, you'd have to name a journalist, but
name drop. So let me ask you this question, because I noticed this. So some people were kind of like the no handshake guy, kind of gave very general information. A few schools just like asked you what you're interested in, and they told you a bit of information about the specific thing that you asked about. But the second person that we spoke to that works for an institution that's overseas, that person stopped, like after speaking to another family, or like maybe us and one other family, then came up to the table and said, okay, do you want me to like go right into my regular shtick? And we all said, or she didn't use that word, but something along those lines.
It was spiel.
Spiel.
I like that word.
Spiel.
Spiel.
We're just throwing around the Yiddish today. So all families said sure. And then she kind of went into almost like a mini presentation that wasn't specific about your major. It was, here's where we are, here's our location relative to like famous, tourist sites to get a sense of the neighborhood. This is where people live. She kind of gave you a 1.5 to 2 minute everything you need to know about the school from A to Z, and then asked you what you were interested in. So that was the only person that gave one of those preamble speeches. Obviously prepared, well rehearsed, all that. What was your reaction to that?
I liked that mostly because I had never heard of this school before, except you literally mentioned it right outside as we were walking in. I'd never heard of this school before. I knew nothing about it. And since it's overseas, I think having all of the background information is more helpful for me. Like, I wouldn't be able to just ask about the political science program and then know if I would be interested in that school or not. Because for another school, like, I generally know, like, where Connecticut and New York, like, I know not everything about those, but, like, I know the areas, generally, like, the culture of the American culture, I don't know. But I think I needed the overview because it's very different overseas. And so I would expect that this would be, like, in another language and that they would have the same, a similar experience. Just based on what I know about colleges, I would assume that it's similar to an American college, but it's not. And they do speak English. I think this was helpful if I didn't know much about the college, which was most of the schools that I was there for. And then being able to go into, like, my specific questions was helpful because I was able to get the overview and know more about the college, and it was interesting, so then I kept going.
Yeah. So, in other words, it's probably pretty good to do a quick overview, or at least find out if the person on the other side of the table knows much about the school, because many of those people were just talking to you saying, what are you interested in studying? And then just dove into the program and the major or otherwise, not... And
most of them weren't specific to the college. So it was just, like, most of the things that they were saying were very general. So I wasn't even getting a taste for the college itself.
That's what I was getting at. Instead, they just dove into your major, but they didn't ask you if you knew anything about the rest of the institution. And, the school that you liked, that gave you good examples of the political science major, mostly focused on stories about the political science and government stuff, didn't get too much into the broader school, but gave you a taste of the culture. But the other person we spoke to gave this is a 2-minute overview of the school, everything you need to know about it at a high level. Now, what are you interested in? And I thought that was really a nice touch, and didn't know how you reacted to it. Sounds like you feel sort of like, compared to No Handshake Guy, you have a better, I don't know if you're going to put it on your list, but this school, you walked away from the table.
I thought it was pretty
seemingly
cool.
feeling better about the place than you did walking up to the table, which is kind of the point.
Mm-hmm. I think
of doing these things.
Going back to the really good political science spiel, I guess we're just using that word today. I think it would have been even better if they did something like that. Maybe even a shorter version of that little speech, because I know literally nothing about that school, and it was really cool to hear about their political science program, but the only question you asked was, like, how far outside of a city is that school? And that gave a little bit of information, but it didn't give anything about, like, the campus life or what the area is like that it's located in, because it's not located in a city. I would have appreciated some background about the school more than just political science.
pretty interesting. Like every person, except for that one school, just dove right into what are you interested in studying? And that, but not like, tell me more about you. Like, have you ever been to our campus?
It wasn't very personal. Even though they were asking and specifying it towards your major, it wasn't personal.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's because there were so many people and we got there probably a half hour, 45 minutes into the start of it because we were given the wrong time on the start time. But that's another,
whole nother
point
day
for another day. But there are a lot of families there. So, and I'm sure I'm guilty of getting tired of saying the same thing over and over again. So it's sort of like, okay, next up, what do you want to study?
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you about it. Whereas when that fair started, the first one or two families, the rep was probably super energetic and otherwise. But yeah, I think giving an overview or asking more information from the kid, like, what are you interested in? How'd you hear about us? Have you ever been to campus? Do you know anybody that's attended here? Have you had any family members that attended here? There's certain starter questions that you can have, but maybe because they didn't have time to get that personal, they just did more of a conveyor belt. Come in, ask a question, move on. How would you rank your experience, your first experience at a college fair overall?
1 being the worst, 10 being the best.
Yes.
Okay.
Or
yeah,
I can ask it in a different way. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, how important do you think college fairs are in helping students like you figure out where you want to go to college?
I want to say 1, but that might be a little bit extreme, so I'll go 2.5. I couldn't tell you all the colleges that I went to. I couldn't tell you all the information that I went to. I'm not really more inclined to apply to any more schools. I guess I did learn about some schools, but it was like exposure, but it wasn't, wow, I have to go here. It like confirmed my beliefs. I don't think it was overwhelming. It wasn't very enjoyable. I don't really want to do it again, which I said as we left. But I just think it's like not necessary with the internet these days. There's so much information about a college. I don't think that someone could memorize all of that and be able to just be ready to answer any question, with super specifics. I think the only thing that would be beneficial was if they were super specifics. And there's like, I don't know how many majors at every school, but imagine trying to have a fact about every single major that you can mention off the top of your head for 2 hours in an overstimulating environment. Like that just wouldn't be possible. So I just don't think it's effective.
So I'm not going to convince you to go to another college fair, I guess. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. College fairs are out. I might have just gone to the last college fair of my entire life and didn't realize it was the last college fair at the time.
Not letting you go to anymore. I'm not stopping you. You can go by yourself.
You're the only reason why I would go.
Well, that's your problem.
All right. As we finish up here, do you have any other closing thoughts?
Shake people's hands, please.
Equality in handshakes.
Equality in handshakes. And firm ones, too.
Right. Let's make like a tree and get out of here,
Let's make like a tree and leave, you idiot.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.